Hello, welcome back to Bethel Evangelical Free Church Handling on YouTube. Of course, I'm not in our church, I'm in one of the little churches in Wales. This is the Church of St Michael and All Angels, Nannerch. The present building is the third on the site. It was built in the early 1850s, 1852 to 53. It replaced a medieval church, which itself would have replaced a Celtic church on this site by the river. Now, there are many kinds of Anglican churches, and it's a church in Wales, which is, of course, the Anglican church in the Principality of Wales. There are many types, and one of the types that you find in the country is the estate church, the church that is particularly beholden to an estate family, a big house, and this is one such church, beholden to the Mostyn family, family at Nannerch Hall. I think that's the name of the big house. I may be wrong, but this church building was designed by Thomas Wyatt of London, and it reflects sort of 1850s Gothic idea. It's very simple. It's really what's known as the early English style, maybe a few twiddly bits, but it is basically it's a simple church designed for an estate village and for the big house family. So let's have a look around this building. Now, there are a number of features that are immediately apparent. The first is the chandelier. You will notice the chandelier has at the top a dove bearing an olive branch, which is a reference, of course, to Noah's flood, but also a reference that the dove is an emblem of the Holy Spirit. And you'll often find this kind of chandelier in a church. This is 18th century, this would have been in the previous building, and like some of the memorials, it's been transferred over when the current building was constructed. It's a very good piece, and an example of the sort of thing that if you had a wealthy family in the parish, they would invest in these things. But you can immediately, your eyes are drawn looking west to this enormous memorial here. This is quite special. It is by Grinning Gibbons. Grinning Gibbons was the 17th, 18th, basically 17th century. He's an Anglo-Dutch gentleman, born 1648, died 1721. He was born in Rotterdam, but did most of his work in England. He's widely regarded as the finest English woodcarver of his generation. It's also notable that he did some work in stone, particularly church memorials, and here we have these weeping putti. And yes, they are anatomically correct, probably a reason why he's at the back. And you can see that this is a memorial to Charlotte Theophila, the Charlotte Theophila Digby, who married Roger Mostyn, and so she married the Mostyn family and died in 1693-4. This is to do with the fact that we had differences as to how we did the years in those days. And it's, again, quite typical for the period. These winged heads, and you've got these putti. You'll notice they're not winged. Yes, they are. They've got tiny little wings, actually. Sorry. Didn't notice the wings. And it's these neoclassical features. And here we have a Good Shepherd window. You can see, obviously, this is from the previous medieval church. And here we have Watkin Williams, eldest son of Richard Williams of Penbedu in the county of Denbigh. And of Annabella, daughter and heiress of Charles Floyd, Esquire of Drenewydd in the county of Salop, Shropshire, on the border. So you've got Welsh place names as well as English place names, Welsh people. In the year She died November the 30th, 1808, aged 66. In the year 1767, he married Elizabeth, fifth daughter of James Russell Stapleton, Esquire, by Penelope his wife, and granddaughter of Sir John Conway, Baronet of Bodriddan in the county of Flint. People often talk about Welsh pronunciation, but actually the problem with Welsh pronunciation for English people isn't that Welsh pronunciation is weird. It is that Welsh spelling basically is phonetic. You've just got to know what the combinations of letters are and how they work. In the year 1777, he was elected to serve in Parliament for the contributory boroughs of Flint, Ruthlin, Caerwys, Caergwrle, and Overton, and continued to represent them until the year 1806, when he withdrew from the duties of public life in consequence of many and increasing infirmities. And here behind the standard lamp we have, as a man he had the praise of an unblemished honour and integrity. As a magistrate and legislator, he won the esteem of all by a happy union of firmness with conciliation, of independence with loyalty, as a son, a husband, a relative, a master and a friend. He so practised the endearing charities of life, he was universally regarded with the sincerest love and most tender affection. As a Christian, the religion which he professed through life inspired him with unwearied patience and cheerful resignation during a period of severe and protracted suffering, till he committed his soul into the hand of him who gave it, with humble confidence in the availing intercession of his merciful Redeemer and Judge. And then Elizabeth, relict of the above Watkin Williams, died April 26th, 1825, aged 87. It is an interesting memorial. You see, it's memorial to his mother first of all, and then to himself, and then his wife. And again, the date's 1825. It's a good 25 years and more before this building was built. Got a nice roof. These open roof, designed to be open, and so it's quite effective. Great big font. We must remember that medieval fonts were designed for dunking infants in. We have at the back an open area that's been created by moving pews around. One suspects, however, that back here may well have been the family pew of the big house. It certainly has a feel like that, and a little kitchen area for modern use. You can see you've got your standard candlesticks, your candelabra, candle holders, very useful if you're having, oh dear. And as usual, we have the stained glass windows. This is 1894, David, St. Elizabeth. Very fine piece of Victorian glass. And looking west, it's such a beautiful little church, early, got Victorian Gothic rather than your full-blown stuff. And memorial to, here we are, Commander Lennox Napier, Royal Navy, HMS Midge, died at Aden, January 21st, 1886, aged 39. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? Given the name, Midge sounds like a gunboat rather than a post ship. Although, of course, that language would be obsolete by then, but Midge was the kind of name that's given to gunboats, smaller torpedo vessels, Midge being a small insect. And more family memorials on the walls. Very nice pulpit. Nice bit of wood there. And a really nice embroidered pulpit fall. I haven't fallen into the trap of getting some modern thing. And up here we have loving memory of David Howell Griffith, B.A., rector of Nannerch, 1912 to 1917, chaplain of the forces, T.F., who died December 12th, 1917, aged 55, and it was given the date. You're looking at First World War. And Paul Edward Howell Griffith, Young Soldiers Battalion, Somersetshire Light Infantry, died January the 4th, 1918, aged 18 years. He will swallow up death in victory, and the Lord God will wipe away all tears from off all faces. It's marvellous to consider these things. And here we have William Barber, second, Penbedu, family of Penbedu. Nice pieces of bronze there, which is always nice. Pieces of brass inlaid. And turn around, and there we have the lectern. Nice piece of wood, not one of these eagles. It's a Penbedu is the big house here, I believe. And a nice inlaid alabaster reredos. Not too overdone. So here we have Christ as the good shepherd, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And here, it is sown in weakness, it is raised in power, a memorial to a little child, Flora, infant daughter of, yes, Reverend David Williams, M.A., rector of this parish. Little girl carried to the heavens by angels and such. And that lovely east window, crucifixion, resurrection, agony in the garden, Last Supper, the four evangelists, and again another memorial to a little boy, this time to a little boy. Let the little children come unto me. It's a reminder that today we take for granted that infants are going to grow up, but that was just not something you could take for granted back in the 19th century until quite recently. And then above the chancel, this is a fairly recent rediscovery during redecoration. There's a painted roof just above the sanctuary itself, and the table is a modern one. All the mixture you have, and then Walter Digby Buddicombe, 4th Hussars, killed in France, June 6th, 1980, and Arthur Banks Owen, King's Shropshire Light Infantry, and again these reminders of how the First World War touched every community. It's a marvellous little church, and one that, well, worth visiting. Good to find it open, and hopefully as these COVID recedes, we shall find more of these places open. But yes, I shall pop outside and have a look round the outside next. So here we are outside at Nannerch. It's a very pretty building. It has a combination tower porch. We'll have a look as we go around, and it's surrounded by quite a large graveyard that is at least partially circular, suggesting an ancient Celtic site, an ancient Celtic Christian site. These sites, and God willing we shall in future videos look at some of the older buildings in the Vale of Clwyd, and we'll talk about a bit more about the Flan and the monks and the Celtic saints then. So let's have a look at the outside of this building. And so here we are. You can see here the porch, and as we look up we can see it turns into a tower with a little brooch spire on it. And again, that very simple design, the tombs that surround it. You can see here just behind this gravestone the curve of the graveyard, again suggesting this ancient Celtic site, and these massive yew trees, which is always an indication of an old church site, the massive yew trees, and little lamppost there. There's the porch, the way in, and the little Just see the bell rope in there. There's just a single bell that summon the folk to worship. Here again, the ivy-grown graves. The vestry here. We'll just move backwards a bit to have a bit of a look at the vestry, and again you see the curve of the enclosure, and beyond is a more modern graveyard. The old graves are all here in the enclosure. Quite overgrown down there, very rustic. And there we have the church. You see the vestry coming out on this side with the choir vestry, and that's where the organ is as well. And you can see it's the way down there to the heating plant in the basement, which is not a theological statement. It is a very fine example of these 1850s churches, and if you got a family as you had here who had plenty of money and were quite pious and devoted to the church, you could get something impressive like this. And here we have at the East End memorial again, just back up here, up into the graveyard to the end, and you see the curve. Now the curve is not complete, which suggests to me that things have been done to the old enclosure. It would originally been round, quite circular. So there we have the East End, and you can see the beautiful stonework there. It's all very great care lavished on it, because of course the whole point is that you're building to the glory of God. You're not building simply to show off. Here again, ancient gravestones. These rather elegant table tombs predate the church. They would have surrounded the old medieval church. It would have been about the same size as the modern church. I mean, is how these things tend to go. So here again we have a decayed memorial with patience to the last he did. Yes, and again this Christian patience. Patience is not a virtue that we glorify today. We live in a society where patience is seen as somehow weak, but patience is a great Christian virtue. And yes, means we put up with things. Here we are, the north side, which is plain, simply because the tower's on the other side, and the vestry, so it's just a straight sort of slab on this side. But the medieval church would have been same location. Clearly, you can tell by where the graves are. It would have been, if anything, a bit smaller than this. This has been built because the Big House family felt that it was important to have a bigger church to reflect their status, but also for the comfort of the villagers. There's noblesse oblige, because it isn't a huge building. Undoubtedly the roof line is higher than the medieval church would have been, and of course there's a spire which the medieval church would definitely not have had, because they don't in this part of the world. But there we are, the beauties of Nannerch, a church that's, I say, well worth a visit. So there we have it, St Michael's, Nannerch. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I enjoy doing them. It allows me to travel around, and I do these things very simply. I know I'm not a genius with video editing and stuff, but I do these things because I enjoy these buildings, and I hope that you enjoy seeing them and looking at them with me. Well, may God bless you and keep you, and see you, God willing, in the next video.